Significant organizational benefits for implementing hardware asset management in particular. Obviously, we've covered off the lifecycle management side of things, very important in order to manage to optimize your existing assets, making sure you're getting the right models, the scope, etc. Been over that one, all good, all on board. We understand the importance of managing hardware throughout its life cycle. Next up, we're looking at how we can dictate the roles and responsibilities for assets throughout their life cycle. Again, this is looking at the stakeholders, making sure that people know what they're doing, what they're not doing, what we as ITAM are looking to them to support us with, what we're expecting them to do as well in order to support the management of hardware assets throughout their life cycle. Also, the support of a centralized catalog for key hardware asset management datasets, AMDB, which should be your central source of truth for managing all of your hardware assets, looking at optimization, lifecycle management, hardware refresh, looking at KPIs, monthly dashboards, etc. Love the AMDB. And there's so many good tools out there as well that you could have as your asset management database too. Also sets out how end users, aka the customers, will consume those end user assets during their life. Again, making sure that they sign some sort of agreement is always a good one. Making sure they sign the policy, for example, or an acceptable use policy or agreement when they receive their equipment. It's worrying how many people treat corporate devices in a bad way. They wouldn't treat their own equipment in that way. You know, if they brought a laptop, they wouldn't scratch it up. They wouldn't drop it. They would be, really careful with it because they're expensive. Same with phones and tablets and monitors, etc. So why not do the same for a corporate one? Just because you're not paying for it, someone is. That's a real bugbear of mine. Is some people's attitudes when it comes to corporate-owned devices. But Ham can make sure that they know what is expected of them, that they physically sign a policy that says they are going to look after it, so that we can hold them to account when they don't. Hardware asset management is a huge support for ITAM and SAM, especially with software licensing requirements. So you think if you're doing hardware refreshes, if something's been lost or stolen, if you're got loads of assets in stock, for example, have they got licenses on them? Do they have the software installed? Are they consuming a license? If they're in stock, they haven't connected to the network for a specific period of time, do you know what software is installed on them? There's a lot of things that hardware asset management can support SAM with. And I know you've started seeing the benefits of that already, especially from the ITAD perspective, reclaiming licenses from assets that are going for ITAD, making sure you're recovering the serial numbers and license keys for stuff that does go, putting it onto the new device, and voila, you kind of see a great relationship between Ham and SAM there. That will obviously evolve as we implement more hardware asset management processes and controls. But yeah, great that you're already seeing those initial benefits, and that will just keep growing. Believe me, that will just keep growing, and your Ham and your SAM teams will be thrilled and will be best friends. Fact. Hardware asset management also supports your configuration management teams with the CMDB. There's obviously a lot of relationship between your asset and your CIs. You can get a lot of really good information from your CMDB on the AMDB. So if you're looking at a particular model, for example, or a particular asset in question that keeps getting requests come in about it, it's too slow, this is crashing, that's crashing. If you see all the incidents and requests or anything associated with that asset under the CI, you can start to paint a picture and going, okay, yeah, we've had a lot of incidents recently saying this model's really slow, or it's not compatible with this software, or this particular asset, this user keeps saying this is crashing, it's slow, etc. Maybe it's time that we don't keep trying to patch over the cracks and we just replace that hardware. A lot of AMDBs also have a relationship with the CMDB, so we're getting data from the CI to populate various information on the asset. And likewise, the CI is getting information from the asset so that it's populating specific things. So yeah, really another great relationship between another stakeholder, which is your configuration management teams and how that works with the AMDB and CMDB. Hardware asset management also can support that technological edge over competitors, looking at the new models, what's the latest releases, working with hardware vendors to understand what the roadmap looks like for the next year. Something actually that cropped up recently for another client is the Lenovo device that's being released that hasn't got a keyboard. It's just basically all one screen, right? So you fold it still like a laptop, but when you open it, this bit that is normally a keyboard is a screen and touch screen. You've got a touch screen here, which is normally like the monitor screen, making sense. And understanding the benefits that something like that kind of technology could bring. So if you're a global organization, I think about it, right? If you're a global organization and in your hardware convention, you've got different keyboard standards because you've got APAC, which will have a keyboard standards. You've got various places in Europe, which has keyboard standards. You've then got UK, which has a different keyboard standard. If you've got a laptop that's got a touch screen, in effect, keyboard there that you can set to say, right, this is going to be an APAC keyboard, this is going to be a German keyboard, a UK keyboard, a Nordics keyboard, a US international keyboard, whatever. Think of how that will streamline your hardware convention. Stuff like that starts to get quite exciting. Going, okay, well, this is obviously going to be really expensive initially, but hopefully other organizations will, other hardware vendors will kind of latch onto that and start building their own ones. The pricing will be competitive. See how other organizations use it. Will the technology really work? And then go, okay, we could streamline our hardware convention here. We don't need all of these keyboard variations. We don't need a tablet anymore because we've got this cool new device. So yeah, having hardware asset management, kind of like you are for software, right? You're always looking at the latest releases on software. How does that impact licensing? How does that impact compatibility? How does that impact how the users actually use it? You can do the same for your hardware models. This is obviously very kind of aimed at end user based stuff. You can do it for network and infrastructure, server, all that stuff as well. But yeah, mainly aimed at the end user stuff. I think from an infrastructure perspective, it's more looking at cloud. How can the cloud help? Is it really cost effective? There's been a lot of articles recently going around that the cloud compared to physical over time isn't actually as cost effective. Again, something ITAM can help so that you are at the cutting edge of technology and advancements when it comes to hardware asset management, data centers, etc. Going back to being at the cutting edge, we can obviously define all the IT assets types within the scope for IT asset management, hardware asset management, all the processes around that. What is approved, what isn't approved, what's approved as an exception, what's approved for certain teams, building up that parameters and that transparency and visibility. That's key, not only for you within hardware asset management, within ITAM, within SAM, and people that live and breathe ITAM, but your end users, knowing what they can request from a hardware perspective, what model, what spec. It will go a really long way building out that visibility and transparency of getting support for ITAM and hardware asset management out there within your organization. And finally, obviously, data is king. Hardware asset management can provide valuable data sets, especially at the moment with budget constraints and budgets being slashed and letting people go, etc. HAM can help with forecasting next year's budget, building out the budget to be creative, to fit within the decreasing budget for hardware, and again factoring in IT asset disposition values that you get back from selling equipment. How does that impact the budget? There's a lot that hardware asset management can help with in there. And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, don't boil the ocean. Don't look at this and think you've got to do all of this straight away, because you don't. You absolutely don't. Baby steps, okay? Baby steps. We keep working up to it. We do one thing, it works, it's implemented, it's showing value, it's smashing it. Look at the next organizational benefit. Follow the same process. Don't try and do everything all at once.
They tell me that I'm never gonna make it. They want me to do something that could make sense. They hate when I keep